The cost of the expected cost of Starship putting 100 tons into orbit is significantly less than what it would have cost, or what it did cost to put our tiny Falcon 1 rocket into orbit. Just as the cost of flying a 747 around the world is less than the cost of a small airplane, a small airplane that was thrown away. So it's really pretty mind-boggling that the giant thing costs way less than the small thing. So it doesn't use sort of exotic propellants or things that are difficult to obtain on Mars. It uses methane as fuel, and it's primarily oxygen. It's sort of roughly 78% oxygen by weight. Mars has a CO2 atmosphere and has water ice, which is CO2 plus H2O, so you can make CH4, methane, and O2 oxygen on Mars.
Presumably one of the first tasks on Mars will be to create
Yes.
a fuel plant that can create the fuel for the return trips of many Starships.
Yes, actually, it's mostly going to be an oxygen plant, but it's because it's call it 78% oxygen, 22% fuel. But the fuel is a simple fuel that is easy to create on Mars, and many other parts of the solar system. So basically, it's all propulsive landing, no parachutes, nothing thrown away. It has a heat shield that's capable of entering on Earth or Mars. We could even potentially go to Venus, but it's not. You don't want to go there. Venus is hell, almost literally. But you could. It's a generalized method of transport to anywhere in the solar system. Because at the point at which you have a propellant depot on Mars, you can then travel to the asteroid belt. And to the moons of Jupiter, and then to Saturn, and ultimately anywhere in the solar system.
But your main focus and SpaceX's main focus is still Mars. Like that is the mission. That is where the effort will go. Or are you actually imagining a much broader array of uses, even in the coming, the first decade or so of uses of this? Where we could, for example, talk the places in the solar system to explore. Perhaps NASA wants to use the rocket for that reason.
Yeah, NASA is planning to use Starship to return to the moon, to return people to the moon. So we're very honored that NASA has chosen us to do this. But I'm saying it is a generalized, it's a general solution to getting anywhere in the greater solar system. It's not suitable for going to another star system, but it is a general solution for transport anywhere in the solar system.
Before it can do any of that, it's got to demonstrate it can get into orbit, around Earth.
Yeah.
What's your latest advice on the timeline for that?
It's looking for us to have an orbital launch attempt in a few months. We're actually integrating we'll be integrating the engines into the booster for the first orbital flight starting in about a week or two. The launch complex itself is ready to go. So assuming we get regulatory approval, I think we could have an orbital launch attempt within a few months.
And a radical new technology like this, presumably there is real risk on those early attempts.
100%. Yeah. I mean, the joke I make all the time is that excitement is guaranteed. Success is not guaranteed, but excitement certainly is.
But the last I saw on your timeline, you've slightly put back the expected date to put the first human on Mars till 2029. I want to say.
Yeah. I mean, let's see. I mean, we have built a production system for Starship, so we're making a lot of ships and boosters. And
how many are you planning to make actually?
Well, we're currently expecting to make a booster and a ship roughly initially roughly every couple months, and hopefully by the end of this year, one every month. So it's giant rockets, but a lot of them. Just talking in terms of rough orders of magnitude, in order to create a self-sustaining city on Mars, I think we'll need something on the order of it. We just need a Helen of Sparta, I guess, on Mars or something.
This is not in most people's heads, Elon.
The planet that launched.
That's nice, but this is not in most people's heads. This picture that you have in your mind, that so there's basically a 2-year window. Right? You can only really fly to Mars conveniently every 2 years.
Yes.
You are picturing that during the 2030s, every couple of years, something like 1,000 starships take off, each containing 100 or more people.
Yes.
I mean, that picture is just completely mind-blowing to me.
Yes.
That sense of this armada of humans going to...
Yeah, it'd be like Battlestar Galactica, the fleet departs.
And you think that it can basically be funded by people spending maybe a couple $100,000 on a ticket to move to Mars? Is that price about where it has been?
Well, I think if you say like what's required in order to get enough people and enough cargo to Mars to build a self-sustaining city, and it's where you have an intersection of sets of people who want to go, because I think only a small percentage of humanity will want to go, and can afford to go or get sponsorship in some manner. That intersection of sets, I think, needs to be 1 million people or something like that. And so it's what can 1 million people afford or get sponsorship for, or because I think governments will also pay for it, and people can take out loans. But I think at the point at which you say, okay, like if moving to Mars costs, for argument's sake, $100,000, then I think almost anyone can work and save up and eventually have $100,000 and be able to go to Mars if they want. We want to make it available to anyone who wants to go.
Yeah.
So very important to emphasize that Mars, especially in the beginning, will not be luxurious. It will be dangerous, cramped, difficult, hard work. It's kind of like that Shackleton ad for going to the Antarctic, which I think is actually not real, but it sounds real and it's cool. It's sort of like the sales pitch for going to Mars is it's dangerous, it's cramped, you might not make it back, it's difficult, it's hard work. That's the sales pitch.
You will make history.
But it'll be glorious.
Right. So on that kind of launch rate you're talking about, over 2 decades you could get your 1 million people to Mars, essentially. Whose city is it? Is it a city? Is it SpaceX?
It's the people of Mars' city. The reason for this, I mean, I have to say, like, we feel like, well, why do this thing? I think this is important for maximizing the benefit of humanity or consciousness. Human civilization could come to an end for external reasons, like a giant meteor or supervolcanoes or extreme climate change, or World War III,
right.
Or any one of a number of reasons. But the probable lifespan of civilizational consciousness as we know it, which we should really view as this very delicate thing, like a small candle in a vast darkness. That is what appears to be the case. We're in this vast darkness of space, and there's this little candle of consciousness that's only really come about after 4.5 billion years.
Yeah.
And it could just go out.
I think that's powerful, and I think a lot of people will be inspired by that vision. And the reason you need the 1 million people is because there has to be enough people there to do everything that you need to survive. It's
really the critical threshold is if the ships from Earth stop coming for any reason.
Right.
Does the Mars city die out or not?
Right.
And so we have to pass that. That's people talk about like the sort of the great filters, the things that perhaps when you talk about the Fermi paradox and where are the aliens, and like, well, maybe the aliens didn't. There is various great filters that the aliens didn't pass, and so they eventually just cease to exist. And one of the great filters is becoming a multi-planet species. So we want to pass that filter, and I'll be long dead before this is a real thing, before it happens. But I'd like to at least see us make great progress in this direction.
Given how tortured the Earth is right now, how much we're beating each other up, shouldn't there be discussions going on with everyone who is dreaming about Mars to try to say, we've got a once in a civilization's chance to make some new rules here. Should someone be trying to lead those discussions to figure out what it means for this to be the people of Mars' city?
Well, I think ultimately this will be up to the people of Mars to decide how they want to rethink society. Yeah, there's certainly, and hopefully the people of Mars will be more enlightened and will not fight amongst each other too much. I mean, I have some recommendations, but which people of Mars may choose to listen to or not. I mean, I would advocate for more of a direct democracy, not a representative democracy, and laws that are short enough for people to understand, and where it is harder to create laws than to get rid of them.
Coming back a bit nearer term, I'd love you to just talk a bit about some of the other possibility space that Starship seems to have created.
Yeah.
So given suddenly we've got this ability to move 100 tons plus into orbit.
Yes.
So we've just launched the James Webb Telescope, which is an incredible thing. It's unbelievable what happened.
So
it's 2 decades.
An exquisite piece of technology.
It's an exquisite piece of technology. But people spent 2 years trying to figure out how to fold up this thing. It's a 3-ton telescope.
We can make it a lot easier if you've got more volume and mass.
Well, but let's ask a different question, which is how much more powerful a telescope could someone design based on using Starship, for example?
I mean, roughly, I would say it's probably an order of magnitude more resolution. If you've got 100 tons and 1,000 cubic meters volume, which is roughly what we have.
And what about other exploration through the solar system? I mean, Europa.
Big question mark.
Right. So there's an ocean there, right?
Yeah.
And what you really want to do is to drop a submarine into the
ocean.
ocean.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's like some squid under the cephalopod civilization under the ice of Europa. That would be pretty interesting.